Radio Telefisheren, you're watching RTE 1, where it's time for Wednesday's 6 1 News.
Big freeze set to continue as Met Service forecasts slow thaw. One man and his dog safe and sound after a night at sea. And when the going gets tough, the tough play football. Good evening. The Arctic conditions look set to continue as temperatures fall again tonight. The Met Service says a thaw will spread only slowly from the south over the next few days. The AA say they've had their busiest Christmas in years, while some flights arriving at Dublin Airport from Britain are running behind schedule. Motorists are again being warned to drive with care as icy roads and patchy fog are again being forecast. Last night was the coldest night since 1981, with northern areas the worst affected. At 10 o'clock this morning, it was still minus 10 degrees at Clones in County Monaghan, having dropped to minus 11 overnight.
A blanket of frost and ice covered most of the country this morning. Temperatures were below freezing in all areas except for parts of the south coast. The Midlands and North were worst affected, with temperatures as low as minus 11 overnight at Clones in County Monaghan. In Dublin it was minus 8. It's been a busy day for the Met Service, with everyone concerned about the weather prospects for the rest of the holiday season.
What we think is going to happen is the milder weather will gradually get up, but as it comes up, there'll be snow and sleet falling for a while, and then eventually it gets milder, that'll turn to rain. And it looks like that by, say, Saturday or Sunday, most of the country, all of the country probably by then, will have milder weather, but probably cloudy and fairly wet weather too.
Gardaí were warning of dangerous road conditions around the country today, although urban areas tended to be the least affected.
Main roads are all open, despite difficulties in places like the Curlews and in County Donegal and most of County Sligo. But for the large part of the country, main roads are open. However, a lot of secondary roads are closed, and even on main roads there's a real danger with black ice. We had the AA rescued a lot of people who've had minor and major accidents in the course of the last couple of days caused by black ice.
With the freeze likely to continue, the AA is advising people to allow plenty of time for any journey. It's also advisable to check with bus, rail, ferry and airline companies, as there have been some delays and cancellations due to the weather.
It was the North's first white Christmas in over 25 years, conditions brought on by freezing temperatures which dropped to a record-breaking 13 below in some areas last night. It was good news for some with the time to enjoy the winter wonderland. But one Belfast family were left waiting for the big thaw before getting their breakfast cereals. The big freeze left a blanket of smog hanging over Belfast and badly disrupted transport and travel. Railway services had to be cut back, and there were delays too at Belfast City Airport. The worst problems, though, were on the roads, with treacherous conditions, particularly in country areas, although widespread gritting eased the situation. The emergency services battled to rescue stranded motorists. The AA alone received over 300 calls for assistance before lunchtime today. Many motorists were caught unawares by the freezing conditions, with most having to wait 3 to 4 hours for help.
It's just the worst. I have never seen it as busy. I know that there's loads and loads of breakdowns right throughout the province, and there's a lot of people worried about travelling, so we've been getting a lot of calls for information as to what the road conditions are like.
One group, though, were undaunted by the freezing weather, the hardy Belfast bargain hunters, some of whom queued throughout the night, waiting for the sales to open.
In Scotland, 1,500 homes were without power today for a second day running, following exceptionally bad weather. In the Shetland Islands, where a state of emergency was declared yesterday, most roads were still impassable today, and islanders were able to communicate only by phone. Temperatures in Scotland itself were the lowest ever recorded, reaching 20 degrees below zero in some parts. There's no indication of an immediate thaw. A Galway fisherman and his dog, who went missing after setting off in a curragh yesterday morning, are back home today, safe and well. Paddy Flaherty from Claddagh spent all night at sea in sub-zero temperatures. An extensive air and sea search was launched when the two failed to arrive back last night.
Back safely on dry land after being stranded overnight in freezing conditions. Paddy Farty and his dog Blackie didn't realise rescue boats had been out searching for them since yesterday. Mr. Faherty had set out for Convara in this boat, but the alarm was raised when he failed to return. Freezing fog had come down and within minutes visibility was just a few feet. Mr. Faherty was forced to throw down an anchor and sit it out for the night in sub-zero conditions as he desperately tried to keep warm.
So the night went on and I was walking up and down inside the boat and clapping my hands to keep them warm on my feet and just keep the best side out. That's all anyone can do. And it turned cold and very cold, so it did. But I knew at some stage and we were clear, but I didn't think it would take as long as what it did.
But Mr. Faherty says their ordeal won't keep them landbound. He and Blackie are already planning their next trip.
Negotiators from Syria and Israel are due to begin talks about now in Maryland in the United States. It's the first time they've met face-to-face for 6 months. In the West Bank today, Israeli troops withdrew from the last of the 6 major towns which were to be handed over into Palestinian control by the end of 1995. Hundreds of residents of the town of Ramallah waved flags and jeered at the departing jeeps as Palestinian police took over the police station and raised their own flag over it. Once again, the cold weather played havoc with festive sporting fixtures. For the second day, racing at Leopardstown was abandoned, while the cross-channel meetings were also wiped out. However, racing went ahead at Limerick, while the Leinster rugby squad met to discuss their team selection for the weekend European Cup semi-final. With news of that and the rest of the day's sport, Gareth O'Connor.
Day 2 of the festive freeze and sport suffers once again. Hard ground and freezing conditions weren't the only things on the mind of the Leinster squad when they came here today hoping to train and to hear a team selection. There was an added complication.
The position as of now, Gareth, is that we have deferred selection until tomorrow so that we can clarify precisely the situation in relation to the availability of our national squad players for the final in Cardiff on Sunday week.
Leinster's problem is that 11 of the provincial squad are also on the national side. It is due to tour the USA the weekend after next. If Leinster beat Cardiff this weekend, that raises the prospect of a clash with the European Cup final. Leinster have been on a roll recently with 10 straight wins, including this impressive victory over Ulster in the Interprovincial Championship. Morale in the camp is good and the situation is expected to be resolved tomorrow. The only race meeting in Ireland or Britain today was at Limerick, and these were the winners. The 12:30 first number 13, Cayley Queen at 6-1. The 1 o'clock number 3, New Co, the 6-4 on favourite. The 1:30 number 2, Tuscany Highway 3-1. The 2 o'clock number 6, Hackenen at 4-1. The 2:30 was won by number 9, Cowanstown Lady, the 10-9 on favourite. The 3 o'clock number 7, Letter Lee at 16-1. And finally from Limerick, the 3:30 number 2, Who's Your One, the 5-4 on favourite. Well, the weather may have wiped out the domestic soccer programme, but up north, Linfield and Glentoran braved the elements in Belfast in the Irish League. But during the game, the ball seemed to change colour, a real-life case of spot the ball. But the players and crowd seemed to enjoy the sport and the snow, and by the way, Linfield won 3-0.
And in this evening's big top of the Premiership clash, cross-channel, it's Manchester United 1, Newcastle 0. And that's all for now. News for the Deaf follows Weatherline. A very good evening.
Hello and a very good evening to you. Well, as you saw there in the news bulletin, it was exceptionally cold last night. Now, temperatures will be rising over the next few days, but only very slowly, and it probably won't be until over the weekend before it begins to feel significantly milder. Now, over the past few days, we have high pressure dominating our weather, giving us slack winds and mostly clear skies at night. Hence, it was extremely cold. Now, that high is beginning to drift away now slowly eastwards, and it's going to allow an east to southeasterly breeze to develop over us over the next few days. That wind will become fairly strong. It'll keep the severe frost away at night time, but it will make it feel very cold during the daytime. These frontal systems here will eventually work their way northwards over the country. They'll bring rain eventually, but preceded by some sleet or snow. But we'll eventually feed in this milder weather here from the Atlantic over the weekend. Now, the winds are already picking up in the extreme south and southwest of the country, and that'll keep the worst of the frost away there. Many areas here will probably be frost-free. But a different story over the rest of the country. Again, a severe frost overnight, though not as severe as last night. Some pockets of fog too also likely, but a lot of these will clear away later in the night as the winds begin to pick up. During the night time too, those increasing winds could bring a few wintry showers onto southern coastal areas, but the rest of the country will be dry. Now, cloud will be increasing tomorrow over Munster, South Leinster, and it could bring some patchy outbreaks of rain, sleet or probably snow. These are most likely to the coastal counties there, but over the rest of the country it'll be another fairly good day. Dry, bright, some good sunny periods, though while not as sunny as recent days, particularly here in some central areas where the sunshine will be fairly hazy. Now, temperatures tomorrow will be higher than recent days, but it's not going to feel any milder. Indeed, it'll probably feel colder because the winds tomorrow will be quite strong and blustery from an east or southeasterly direction. Tomorrow night we'll see more persistent rain developing there in the south, extending a bit further inland and turning to sleet or snow as it does so as it encounters this colder air there further north. That'll continue to spread further northwards during Friday, preceded by that sleet and snow, but it will eventually get milder there in the south. That's it. Bye-bye for now.
Good evening. Freezing temperatures are forecast again tonight. Last night was the coldest night since 1981, and even by 10 o'clock this morning it was still minus 10 degrees at Clonus in County Monaghan. Flights have been delayed and motorists are advised to drive with extreme care. In the north, freezing temperatures have badly disrupted transport and travel. A 27-year-old Armagh man was killed in a road accident near Dungannon early this morning. In Scotland, temperatures were the lowest ever recorded, reaching 20 degrees below zero in some parts. On the Shetland Islands, where a state of emergency was declared yesterday, most roads were still impassable today. Negotiators from Syria and Israel are meeting for the first time in 6 months today in the United States. And in the West Bank, Israeli troops withdrew from the last of the 6 major towns which were to be handed over to Palestinian control by the end of 1995. A Galway boatman and his dog, who went missing after setting off in a curragh yesterday morning, are back home this evening safe and well. And that's all for now. The next main bulletin is on RTE 1 at 9 o'clock. Good evening.
Just asked him to give him that last down for these 35 minutes.
You think you're going to do it?
We're going to do it.